Welcome to the NerdSpace Wrap Up for the 20th of the 8th, 2016. I'm Bryan, and joining me once again is Deege and Chidgey. And we're going to take you through what we did today, what's coming up at our next event, and then talk a little bit about the Pauper format. But first, we're going to throw over to Deege and Justin, who are going to tell us a little bit about the games we tested out today.
So today I played Castle Dash, and I experienced one of those awesome things when the whole table is playing a game for the first time. We got the rules terribly wrong. It was still a fun game. It was a game basically about attacking your opponents, trying to overcome their defenses and steal their gold. It was very fun. I got ganged up on and lost. But apart from that, it was a great game. And I really am looking forward to next time being able to play the game with the proper rules, which doesn't make it a mad scramble of just attacking everyone all the time.
And I played 100 Mile. I've totally forgotten the full name.
Hit the Trail.
Hit the Trail, there we go. So in this game, essentially you're on a trail, you're trying to get 100 miles. Thus, I remember 100 Mile. And essentially you're semi-competitive against all the other players. You want to kind of knock them off the trail so that you get all the miles and they're still stuck at the start. I got really lucky on my first round and got like 63 miles to my name on that first round, which basically pushed me over the mark. So bit of luck, but based on this game, you're rolling dice to try to get those numbers of the miles you can pass. So you've got that level of luck, but you also need to kind of anticipate what you can get through, what's a better number that's going to come up more often that you can get the points from.
We also had our little Magic tournament King of the Hill return. Our congratulations to Bo, who won the prize both for being the king and staying the king the longest. And that went really great. We won that for about 4 hours this time round, and had a record number of people through it. So if you're interested, it won't be here next event, but it will be here the subsequent event afterwards.
Bo was pretty dominant in that event.
Yeah, he actually brought something we didn't expect to hold the hill, and then it was just ridiculously versatile. So lastly, we'll just reiterate what content has been released so far in case you missed it.
So we've had one wrap-up previously to this, and it was great. Very fun talking about what we've done. Bryan has also released his first look behind the cards, where he looked at the idea of triskaidekaphobia and what all of that means and what's the background and the lore behind that card. And both of them are great. We've also got some of our earlier episodes where we're figuring out the style and format that we want. So if you want to look at that and laugh at us, please go ahead.
Alright, so let's jump into our little discussion topic for today. The event coming up in 2 weeks' time is going to be a Pauper tournament. So we thought we'd look at the sort of top decks in Pauper to give you some ideas for your brewing, and then talk about what we're going to be running. So the most popular deck in the format, 17.35% of the meta in the last Pauper League, is called Is It Drake? And Is It Drake centers around using a card called Ghostly Flicker to exile 2 creatures and then return them to the battlefield. And one of those creatures is the Archaeomancer, which when it enters the battlefield, you return an instant or sorcery to your hand, which is Ghostly Flicker. Put them together with the Peregrine Drake, which when it enters the battlefield, untap 5 lands, and you have basically a constant engine of entering the battlefield triggers, which you can also then switch in for, say, a Seagate Oracle, which lets you manipulate your library, or a Muldrifter that lets you draw cards, and then you generally just repeat that until you control the skies.
Yeah, the process, I believe, is to get the infinite mana, basically, and then you can essentially play any amount of draws, you can draw your whole deck, and basically do whatever you want there.
It's a little difficult to go pure infinite without actually win, but it's certainly a versatile combo.
It does, but it does allow, if you've got the right draw card that'll allow you to draw as many cards as you want, if you can spend the mana, you can pretty much draw your deck and do what you need to do.
So that deck's the 2 best colours in Magic, blue and red. But if you wanted to just go mono blue, the next most common deck is surprisingly called Delver, because Delver of Secrets is great everywhere. So Delver of Secrets, of course, being the 1/1 that turns into a 3/2, and then you back that up with a few other low-cost flyers, so you've got like Fairy Miscreant or Spellstutter Sprite, counter things, and then you just got a lot of card draw, a lot of counter spells, including literal actual counter spell, and a lot of control magic in that way to just beat down with highly efficient evasive creatures.
Yeah, it's pretty standard blue maneuver. just use your counter spells, stop them from being able to do anything, and then drop your efficient creatures. Like, it's pretty much the definition of playing Blue.
I may be a terrible person, but I love that kind of deck. I love shutting down an opponent's deck.
That definitely makes you a terrible person.
So how would you like to play Counterspell and Daze in the one deck in a legal format?
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
The next most common one, Affinity. So, Affinity being the artifacts, this deck actually uses cards with the keyword Affinity, which is nice. And the key reason it does that is because the artifact lands aren't banned here. So these are just essentially forests, mountains, and so on, but they have a subtype of artifact. And they are broken. So you use something like ATOG that you can sack artifacts to, give it +2/+2 until end of turn. You pair that up with creatures that have Metalcraft, which is almost always on, so they're always getting a pump out of that. Or creatures like Frogmite, which you can essentially pay for free once you have your lands down, because they work for Affinity. Back that up with a bunch of draw and removal, such as Galvanic Blast, and generally you are emptying your hand and playing sort of the classic Affinity deck in Pauper.
I really love seeing a modern deck being modified to a Pauper format. I think it's really interesting to compare the two decks, see what changes, see how they operate differently and how they operate the same. I'm excited to see if anybody brings a deck like that along.
Lastly, I think this is going to be your deck, Chidgey. It's called Stompy. So, Stompy is mono green. It runs Nettle Sentinel and a bunch of other elves for the pure ramp, and then just pump spells.
Yeah, I kind of play like this sometimes. I play a lot of different kind of decks a lot of the time, but if I'm in competitive, I often use green because it is a simple pump kind of drop a lot of ramp through creatures or spells and then just pump something to stupid dimensions and swing.
So how do you like the sound of this then? We've got Skargan Pit Skulk. It has Bloodthirst 1, but more importantly, creatures with power less than it can't block. So it starts as a 1/1.
Yep, that's already got me excited, to be honest.
You throw a Rancor on it.
Oh, geez.
You cast a Vine of Vastwood on it.
Oh, I love those. They actually came out really when I started playing, and I remember them as an amazing card.
And then when that doesn't work, you cast a Young Wolf with Undying, and then in your deck you have Hunger of the Howlpack that puts a +1/+1 counter on it, removing the effects of... boosting it, rather.
Yeah,
it's not
boosting
persist.
it.
But, so you essentially get two creatures in one and do the same trick.
That definitely works. I remember Hunger the Howlpack. It sits in my Werewolves deck, and that would be very tasty little trick.
So having heard all of those, what are we going to be playing? Let's ruin all our surprise.
I really want to run a mono blue mill. I want to have heavy control and run mill, and I really just want to win one game with it. I'm not... Like, if I win the whole tournament,
confident.
amazing. But I just want to win one game with mono blue mill. It would make my day.
Is there enough common good mill?
No, there is absolutely
It's all
not.
pretty terrible.
Yeah, that's why I really want to make it work. I want to make it win. It'll be so good.
I'll be looking at the standard green stompy kind of idea. I'll probably play around with it a bit, but that's probably what I'll run, like what I can get my hands on, and go for it.
And I'll be running Is It Delver, because I want to play Ponder, Brainstorm, Delver, and Lightning Bolt in one deck. It's that simple.
I hate you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so we hope you'll be able to join us in Croydon again on the 3rd of September for that tournament. Before we wrap up, tell us a little bit about the podcast material we have coming up in the week.
Excellent. I'm really excited about this. We have a D&D podcast. It's called The Dungeon Master's Guide. And I'll be basically running through all those really common questions that you might have if you're a beginner DM or if you have been DMing D&D for a while. So this first episode, we're looking at what exactly is a Dungeon Master? What's a DM? What does the role involve? And how is it different to being a player? I'm really excited about it going on. After that, we'll look at all of the aspects of how to run a sessions, how to run even a campaign, starting from building your characters all the way to how to end a campaign well.
And lastly, being such a master of dungeon mastery, excellent segue, thank you. Our Persistent World, where are we at?
Yes, our Persistent World has been running for almost a year now, and we've been on very great adventures, going through all distant places in the realm. I am planning something big for our end of year event, which, even though it doesn't seem like it, is coming up very soon. So if you are at all interested in D&D, please make sure that you're there for the final D&D event. It will shake the world as you know it.
That's all from us. You'll hear from us together in 2 weeks' time after the 3rd of September event, where we'll wrap up the events of the Pauper and talk about some other stuff. Until then, I've been Bryan.
I've been Daniel.
And I'm Chidgey.
Thanks, guys.